Good evening, or good afternoon. It's still, we have 1 more hour to go to the evening. Welcome to the teleconference of the first quarter results of 2026 of the DNOGAR Group. Thank you very much for being with us and spend at least probably the next hour with us. Today we are presented by the CFO as well as the Deputy CEO and CEO of the company, Adina Troefhaus and Michaela Nekula. Let's go to the first slide. So I will give us a quick summary of the Q1 performance in general, let's say, as well as this is a foundation year about the strategy that we announced last year, the strategy 2025-2030, and especially 2026 and 2027. I see I need a little bit to move to not drop off the screen, let's say. So those 2 years are mainly the foundation years who will lay the main growth, which will start from 2028, 2029, and 2030, but especially the main growth will come in 2028. And the foundations years is this year and next year, where we implement wheatgrass, our first processing plant, as well as, of course, new announcements, as well as start of construction of a new farm, the Q2 farm, finalization of the Strasia farm, further increase of the compost units, as you heard already. Many projects that need to mainly be implemented in this year and next year, and not to forget, of course, the biomethane production facility. So I will go quickly do it. Today we host five farms in the group with 2 compost units. Last year, production of 70 million liters of milk. This year, the goal is clear. At least 80 million liters of milk, and the whole strategy is around 3 more or less pillars. It's to produce net zero milk by 2030, to more than double our EBITDA by 2030, as well as to more than double our milk output, meaning this year 80 million, in 2030 this will be between 150 and 200 million liters on an annual basis, and that's where we are laying the foundation for. So to be more resilient, that's part on the feedstock production, to be more resilient over there, to maintain the strong integrated business model of the DNOGAR that we have today, as well as to slowly start to diversify our revenue streams, not only by revenue streams in itself, as well as the diversification of type of clients that we have compared to today, as well as geographic location. So, and here, now this more or less I mentioned already. Today we operate in the group 10,000 hectares, 7,000 inside the group with 3,000 additional hectares. We have almost 20,000 animals, a bit over 18,000, and by 2030 we will have over 30,000 animals. Well, as I mentioned already, most important, or where we're working hard on every day with the entire team of over 300 family members of the DNOGAR family, is mainly to further tighten, to further strengthen our integrated business model with the current experience that we have in the current field of experience that we have, mainly milk production, as well as to valorize the manure in the following ways. So if we look to the integrated business lines and multiple revenue streams by 2030, if we look to business line 1 from our perspective, there of course we have first wheatgrass and conventional crops. Those 2 business lines, they will contribute to the feedstock of the farms in 2030, and of course then the cows, they produce 2 resources, milk and manure. If we look to the raw milk part, we expect that in 2030 around 50% of the milk produced will go directly by long-term contracts to the milk processors, as well as that 50%, think of the Strasia 1 farm and the Q2 farm. So half of the production will be produced in 2030 by those 2 production facilities, will go through the skimmed milk facility and cream facility. Why we are implementing those business lines? Of course, to further diversify our client group. Currently, we work mainly with large multinational in the local market, as well as that we export close to 15% of our milk. But through this skimmed milk and cream facility, we can diversify our client groups without competing with our clients, meaning we can sell it to ice cream factories, bakeries, other semi-food producers. Think of Nestle, think of Unilever, etc. Next to that, we can take out, of course, the water out of the milk, meaning a significant reduction of transportation costs, meaning 100,000 liters today gets transported by 4 trucks. That will be done by 1 truck. So a main focus in the future will be to significantly increase our exports to Greece, Northern Italy, Croatia, and other countries in that region. Then secondly, if we look to the manure part, of course, we signed a contract with Black Sea Oil and Gas a few years ago, and currently we are working hard to implement the first biomethane plant in Romania with injection into the grid. We got the approval for the injection into the grid. Currently, we are obtaining the permits, where we estimate at least an additional revenue stream of 3.5 million euros a year, and that is really conservative budgeted. And there, so far, the deal is that the NKR only delivers the raw material and receives the digestate back. And for that, of course, we receive this value of 3.5 million euros. A part of the digestate will go into our compost units. A part of the digestate goes directly into the lagoons in our fields to be used as a fertilizer. And of course, you have the gas output that will be injected into the grid. That's the second time that we valorize the manure. There will be a third time that we valorize the manure. It's that also we will receive around 100,000 voluntary carbon certificates on an annual basis, which currently have a value of around 20 euros. If we look to the manure line here on the screen, we estimate in 2030 that the manure will contribute to 30 to 35% of our EBITDA in the future. And then, of course, the second business line, is how we call it, is the food cluster that we are currently working on. We are finalizing the market study to find the optimal product mix of 4 or 5 vegetables mainly, but fruits could be included, meaning that we aim in the future to deliver in the Bucharest metropolitan area, as well as if we look to the Sofia region in Bulgaria and to the Odessa region. That's more the region that we are analyzing, that we can deliver to large retailers 30 to 40% of their most sold vegetables in this regard. And we aim, of course, to design this around the cluster where we have packaging, cooling, storage, etc., so that we can bring enough added value with the right product mix to those retailers. There are some synergies over there. Of course, the fertilizer, you could think of CO2 injection. So this is what the NKR looks in 2030, and why we start with this part, because as I said, it's the main foundation year 2026 and 2027, and we will go soon in details about the finances as well as the project in itself that will be implemented throughout the coming years. But with all the projects that are mentioned here, also if there are new revenue lines like the skimmed milk factory, those will all be implemented this year, and the others latest next year. So then we go. So this is what the strategic timeline looks like. I know we are a bit of delay. We promised to come with an exact overview on our website. Well, that is more or less finalized. The offline version is finalized. So latest in the second week of June, I estimate that we have a really detailed overview of all the projects with all the construction steps, etc., implemented on our website. Later on the year, we will add additional financial indicators to certain projects where we are, when we are really aware and sure about certain indicators. So that is the next step to provide you even more information that you where you have access already than compared to today. So then we go to Michaela. Please help us with the financial results.
Good evening and welcome to presentation of the results from the first quarter of this year. results that should be analyzed in the particular context of the evolution of raw milk market in 2025, a year that was characterized by exceptionally high levels of selling prices. Compared to first quarter of 2025, the end of March of this year was marked by a significant decrease with 31% in milk prices, with direct influence in the dynamics of revenues and margins. In this context, the company continued to deliver operational performance by increasing the volume of milk produced and sold with 22% compared with the same comparative period last year, and by maintaining rigorous discipline in the cost management. A turnover of almost 47 million RON, with a EBITDA of almost 21 million and a net profit of almost 10 million RON in the first 3 months of this year, shows that management remains focused on operational efficiency by increasing productivity and adapting to market condition, with the objective of supporting profitability and long-term development. Also, the market environment was less favorable than previous period. The results remains above the level recorded in the same period in first quarter 2022, the year on listing on Euro Stock Exchange market, up to 2024, that reflect continuing improvement in business performance. 2025 remaining like this an outlier year due to historically elevated milk prices. With an operating profit of 13 million RON in this first quarter of the year, this was mainly impacted by a decrease in raw milk selling price, alongside with increasing in operating expenses across key cost categories. The main increasing in operating expenses were recorded in consumables and production inputs, up to 32 million RON, with a 4% increase compared with March 2025 because of intensification in production activity, together with management preoccupying in maintaining and optimizing the health of the animals. Also, logistic expenses, repairing and maintenance in agriculture services reach up to 10 million RON, with a 14% increase compared to the same period last year, reflecting also the expansion of operations. Also, personal expenses reached the value of 9 million RON, increase with 15%, due to adjustment in remuneration packages in order to maintain competitiveness on the labor market. Turnover in this period includes also initial contribution from compost sales, over 4,000 tons in this period, which is expected to expand gradually and support revenue diversification in the next period. In the analyzed period, also the sale of retired and surplus of animals was carried out at favorable market prices under a rigorous selection policy and disciplined herd management, aimed to maintain optimal parameters of productivity and profitability. This contributed to the generation of other operating income in this period for approx 2 million RON. In order to provide a comparable picture of the company's performance, we also present the financial results according to IFRS standard, along with the key operational indicators: turnover 47 million, EBITDA 31 million RON, and net profit 21 million RON at the end of March this year. IFRS results differ from those determined according to local regulation, as they include adjustments regarding revaluation of biological assets and their recognition at fair value for animals and agriculture crops, while the local regulation uses historical cost. Also, an impact comes from the recognition of subsidies, together with different treatment in rental contracts and lease contracts, where they are treated as assets and liabilities, while the Romanian regulation treats them as operating expenses. Also, recognition of deferred tax made an impact on these results, together with other additional provision and adjustments. In both quarter 2025 and 2026, the main difference between the results recorded and reported under both regulation comes from the way government subsidies are recognized. If on the local rules, subsidies are recognized linearly during the year, regardless of when the company collects them, on IFRS, subsidies are recognized when there is a certainty that the right to receive them is fulfilled. So, in first quarter of 2025, the application of IFRS standard regulation on subsidies generates a positive impact of almost 8 million RON compared to Romanian regulation. And in the first quarter of 2026, the same effect on accelerating the recognition of subsidies, generating a positive impact of almost 11 million RON compared to Romanian regulation. We still remain under IFRS results. Regarding the operational results reported under the same framework, amounting 26 million RON, it records a positive impact of approx 13 million RON compared to local regulation, determined by differences in accounting treatment and timing of recognition, namely from agriculture subsidies, approx 11 million RON, recognition at fair value measurements of biological assets for approx 1 million RON, as well as the effect of applying IFRS regulation on lease contracts for approx 1 million RON. These adjustments are exclusively accounting and timing nature and do not reflect changes in the recurring operational performance or the company's cash generation capacity. IFRS confirms the company's operation performance with an EBITDA margin of 66% and a profit margin of 42%, reflecting a sustainable and efficient business model. The EBITDA level of 31 million RON ensures the company's ability to finance current and future investments, supporting the continuous development of the activity. During the reporting period, the company continued to implement the investment program aimed to increase production capacity, to improve operational efficiency, and to consolidate the farm infrastructure. Thus, in the first 3 months of the year, the company made investments for approx 14 million RON in construction of the milk processing line, 10 million RON, construction of Straja Farm, 2 million RON, development in composting line, 0.5 million RON, installation in solar panels, 0.2, construction of a grain mill, 0.5 million RON, together with purchase of agriculture and zootechnical equipments and machinery for 0.8 million RON. The continuous investment process carried out by the company has contributed and continues to contribute to the consolidation of operational capacity and the improvement of efficiency, providing a basis for the evolution of future performance. Therefore, in establishing the IFRS budget for this year, the following assumptions were taken into consideration, like increase in production volume, reduction of dependence on the sale of a single product by developing milk processing activities and compost production, as well as on the assumption of an average milk price estimated to be lower compared to the level from 2025. Thus, for the current year, we estimate a turnover of 200 million RON, a net profit of 45 million, and an EBITDA of 92 million. The decrease in revenues and profitability in this year is driven exclusively by the pressure on the milk price, an external market factor, and not by volumes or operational efficiency. Now I'll give the microphone to Adina.
Yeah, the microphone. We deliver approx 21 million liters of milk, which is over 22% higher compared to same period of last year. The biggest contribution came from Straja Farm, which continue to grow month by month as gradually we populate the farm. At the same time, the other farms had a stable performance, and we continue to focus on efficiency, cow comfort, and good operational discipline. Of course, we still see pressure coming from the volatility in milk market, but operationally, the farms perform well during the quarter. Due to the sharp decline in milk prices, especially in months like February and March, we also focus on herd optimization and decided to sell non-productive cows, particularly in the context of the currently high meat prices. Based on these results, we continue to maintain our target to increase with at least 10% the milk production for the full year. On the crop side, the beginning of 2026 was clearly more positive compared to last year, especially from soil moisture perspective. After the difficult agricultural condition we had in 2025, this year we start the spring campaign in much better conditions. As we can also see on the soil moisture map, in the central region of Romania where our farms are located, the soil moisture reserves are currently on satisfactory levels, which give us a more stable starting point for this agricultural year. This year, our crop plan includes maize, triticale, lucerne, barley, peas, grass mixture, all of them used for our feeding our dairy herd. We continue to focus on minimum till and no-till technologies in order to retain the water in the soil and improve the efficiency on the fields. At the same time, we remain very focused on crop monitoring and on maintaining good productivity, especially because the weather volatility continues to be an important factor for agriculture in our area. For sure, agriculture remains highly dependent on weather condition, but for now, the crop look stable and significantly better than last year. Here you can see some current agricultural activities. The corn sowing campaign was successfully finalized and on time. In the time we start also with the first harvesting activities, we do already the first cut of lucerne. This time we are in a campaign for harvesting triticale for silo in order to prepare the forage needed for our dairy operations. And you can see also our corn in the fields. In this time, we have really nice corn in the fields. So overall, the agricultural activities are progressing according to the plan. The composting projects continue to be an important part of Dane Agrar sustainability. At the moment, both compost units are operating and producing organic fertilizer from manure generated within our farms. With the second facility in Lacto Agrar, we increased the capacity of production to around 14,000 tons of compost per year. At the same time, we continue the certification process through EcoCert. Here you can see pictures from our compost facility. First compost facility in Apold farm is fully operational together with a packaging machine, which allow us to prepare the final product for sale and distribution. At the same time, the second compost facility in Lacto Agrar is also operational and support the expansion of our compost production. Now I let Peter present the next slides.
Thank you very much, Adina and Michaela. Let's quick move on to the capital market. We mentioned already beforehand, we have a significant increase in a year in shareholders, 5,400 currently. Although we saw quite a sharp decline, of course, in our share price, but luckily, at least the last 2 days, we recovered a bit from the first quarter. We are still working on, of course, to do the upgrade to the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Everything is really on schedule there, meaning updating further our corporate governance structure, analyzing further diversification of our board structure, and then especially we look on the non-executive part. So that's all in progress. The broker should be chosen in the coming months. Let's say I expect in the coming 2 months to come with an update to that. And as far as we can oversee anything now, it's we will do the upgrade to the main market next year in April or May. I think one key decision or there are 2 ways to go, either to do a technical upgrade or to do a capital increase, but that should be at least for a certain amount of 20 million or more. And that really depends mainly, I would say, on the valuation of our stock, especially in total the market capitalization that needs to increase from our side, at least from our perspective, to be able to do such an increase. But we are working hard on that to, of course, to increase our market cap. That we can do in 2 ways, of course, to deliver on our results or to further improve our results for the coming year, or to look into M&A, etc., to further increase the valuation of the DNR company. If we look to the development of our price, it's still, if you compare since listing 2022, the DNR stock is clearly outperforming both indexes on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. And also liquidity is significantly higher than last year. Also, if we looked, I think, in the first quarter, there's a significant difference between our liquidity and the number 2 on the arrow market. And as you can see, we have already many days that we can compete with the bottom of the index of the main market of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Well, then we go to the strategic projects calendar, and maybe Adina, you can take it on here from the projects that we are implementing this year, the main foundation year of the 2025-2030 strategy.
Yes. This slide provides an overview of the main strategic projects currently under development within DN Agrar. At the moment, our main focus is to continue the development of Straja Farm, vertical farming for wheatgrass, the expansion of compost production, and the future cream and skim milk factory. Sorry. At the same time, we continue to move forward with the biomethane initiative developed together with Black Sea Oil and Gas and the future digested lagoons, both being important parts of our circular economy strategy. We also continue to evaluate future expansion opportunities through projects such as CUT2 farm development and the food cluster project. Overall, all these projects are designed to support the long-term growth, efficiency, and integration in the group operations. Cream and skim milk factory. This project is an important step in DN Agrar strategy to further integrate the value chain and diversify the group products portfolio. The facility will focus on the production of cream, skim milk, and skim milk concentrate, and kosher milk, and is located in Straja Farm. The estimated processing capacity is approx 150,000 liters per day, with an extra storage capacity of 300,000 liters. Throughout this investment, we also aim to improve transportation efficiency and expand our client diversification and geographical reach. At the same time, the factory will allow us to respond more flexibly to specific customer requirements like customized fat content, specification, and smaller packaging solution for food producers. We have the possibility to sell a full truck, but also to sell packaging like 1,000 liters for different food producers. The investment value is approx 3.5 million euro, and the financing structure has already secured through Exim Bank, and we expect the first sales to come in the end of third quarter of 2026. Here you can see the planned layout of cream and skim milk factory. The project is designed to support efficient processing, storage capacity, and logistic integration. Yeah, here you can see the current construction progress of the scheme of the milk factory. At the moment, the structural works are progressing according to the plan. Vertical farming project is one of the projects we are most excited about the future. The objective of this project is to produce fresh wheat grass daily for our cows with a stable nutritional quality throughout the year, independent of external factors like drought or weather conditions. At the same time, our cows will receive fresh feed every day, which we believe will support animal health and production efficiency. The first unit is planned in Kut Farm with an estimated production capacity of approx 40 tons per day. Throughout this project, we estimate that around 30% from our feed requirements of the farm will be covered internally by our vertical farm. Currently, the project is in a final development phase, while the first production is targeted in the end of 2026. Here you can see the design of vertical farm. The entire process will be fully automatic from seeding to harvesting and cleaning, and will use 90% less water than a conventional crop. The objective of to produce fresh wheat grass is that the cows will get everyday fresh food with a stable quality and very efficient use of water and energy. Straja Farm continued to be one of the most important development projects for Deni Agrar and the key driver for our milk production growth. The project started in 2023 and is progressing according to the plan, with the farm being populated gradually as the infrastructure is finalized. Milk production started in March 2025, and by the end of 2025, we have in the farm around 2,200 cows. During 2026, we continued the expansion phase with the objective of reaching approx 3,400 cows in production and pregnant heifers. At the same time, we continued the construction works and the operational integration of the farm. Once fully completed, Straja Farm is expected to reach around 5,000 cows in the end of 2027. Here you can see images from Straja Farm. You can see cows on beds, our dry cows laying on straw, and of course our operational milk parlor, which is really impressive with our 2 rotors running one time. So now I will let Peter present the next slides.
Thank you very much, Adina. So yeah, I mentioned already at the start of the meeting that the next big business line that we are working on this year, but that's mainly the R&D part last year and designing the business model, I would say, and probably the final selection of the location around Bucharest. We are looking to currently we have, let's say, around 3 locations around the metropolitan area of Bucharest. One is between Bucharest and Constanța, and those others are on the other side of the city, where we are analyzing the development of the food cluster. As I said already, the idea of the food cluster is where we have some synergies with, of course, our organic fertilizer, which is a really good premium product, I would say, for the horticulture sector. That's also if we look at where we are currently selling our organic fertilizer to, that is the main sector that we are targeting. If we look for large quantities, that's mainly the horticulture sector. And the main idea of the food cluster is to find the optimum product mix. So think of 4, 5, 6 vegetables that can be grown in high-tech greenhouses to a large extent of the year, that will be complemented partially with some imports, and they all will be treated in the cluster itself. Every time I'm dropping somehow of the screen. There we will have shared packaging, cooling, storaging, of course, a shared service of logistics. And through this product mix, this will be sold to large retailers, mainly for the domestic market. We will look a bit for what should such a business model look like, at least to be most efficient, let's say, from a greenhouse perspective for one crop. Yeah, you should look at a coverage of around 7 hectares. So, of course, it will be a long-term plan where every year we are enrolling several hectares on a greenhouse. But if you want to make optimum usage of a greenhouse, that lies somewhere at least from a start between 5 to 7 hectares. And then slowly on, you will grow also in the tons harvested, let's say, but this needs to be built up gradually, not to overload the market. So the main idea is to finalize the plan in the coming months, to find the right partners. It's maybe nice, but the next week we will receive quite a lot of visits from the Netherlands, the UK, from Poland, from possible partners to participate in this project. So it is not only a plan on paper or here on a PowerPoint slide, but we are really working behind the scenes on this project. And to find the right structure, because it's clearly that we don't have full experience of how to grow tomato, let's say. So of course we want to do that in collaboration with experts in those industries. And then it's the selection of the location. And then, of course, the next step is to see, okay, what type of financing do we need? Are we looking for a capital increase? For sure, perhaps is bank financing as well in this case. And I think if we move on, we could already look for a first start of construction, if everything runs smoothly, for next year, in the later part next year. So that's about the food cluster. And then the biomethane project. So yeah, we are really on schedule here, I would say, finally. And when we had, again, government issues, the first fear I had, and I immediately called my lawyers to verify that if this fall of or the collapse of the current government would mean another or again a delay for the biomethane project, but they assured me that there aren't any issues there, or their interference part is more or less finalized. So we need to obtain the building permit. Of course, it states in total 6 to 8 months. Now, this we expect in the coming months, to be obtained. And after that, everything is ready to take hopefully a positive FID, and still the commissioning or start of production is estimated for the beginning of 2028, Q1 2028, where we estimate at least 3.5 million revenue stream. But we are started to test our product, and the product, the indicators of the product, they are really satisfying. So maybe we will be able even to increase that figure in the future. Of course, with the FID later this year, also we need to take a decision if we would like to obtain a 10 to 20% equity stakes between 3 to 6 million euros. But we will inform you accordingly, and we will do this not with the approval of the shareholders. Well, the Q2 farm, ING approved this already almost in end of April, beginning of May. Also, it's now under approval of Exim Bank, and normally this will be finalized by the end of this week. So we estimate that next week or latest the week after, we will announce in the Gazette, I think it's called, the next shareholders meeting, which will take place in the beginning of July, to approve financed by ING, 10 million euros plus 20% own sources for the development of the Q2 farm. Exactly, or it's just a copy paste of the Strasia 1 farm. So 150,000 liters a day, 5,000 dairy cows, same implementation schedule. Also for this Q2 farm in the future, we will add here a processing plant. So it will have the complete same structure as the Strasia farm. So that all the milk from the Q2 farm in the future will go to the skimmed milk and cream factory as well. Meaning if the Q2 farm is fully operational together with the Strasia 2 farm, that means half of our milk supply will go through these two factories, and its main destination will be export or a different client segmentation on the domestic market. Everything is on schedule there. We are working on the permitting, and we expect to start construction in the second part of this year, preparing the land. And we expect to start production beginning of 2028, so probably end of March 2028, and then gradually populate this farm. It's 1.5% interest with 1 month Euribor, like all our other loans from ING. Our financing structure, we have currently 2 banks. It's Exim and ING Bank. All our loans are in euro. Also, all our contracts, generally where we sign, are in euro. Of course, certain payments are in lei. But this is how the structure is. With ING, it's always a 1.5% interest plus 1 month Euribor. And with Exim, it's 1.5% interest on all our loans with 6 months Euribor. I'm touching the wrong. Then we have, in addition, so the financing consists of 2 elements. As I said, 10 million euros for the Q2 farm, as well as an additional 3.5 million euros for the development of 2 additional composting units, which are part of our strategy. And normally our goal is to order the machinery, but depends on market developments. But the goal is probably in the second part of this year. It's very aiming for, meaning that those 2 units will be installed next year and will also become operational next year. So now we have 2 of those composting units. And we will double again. Last year, in 1 year time, we doubled our capacity, and then by next year we will double again our capacity of output, mainly used of course, for as a new revenue stream outside of the group. But also, to give you an example, for this year, everyone is aware of the crisis in the Middle East that we are currently facing. Of course, we really need critically monitor how could we reduce the purchase, especially as well as the usage of chemical fertilizer. So it could be also used partly inside the group. Well, finally, I can announce the name. That took a lot of months. We have finalized a design pack already. But of course, we needed to contest this on a European level, on a Romanian level, that there is no duplicate or that someone would contest it. And of course, this we had, but this is now finalized, this procedure. So this is the new brand. It will be the Agri Gold brand. As Adina mentioned already, we have also a 5, 10, 20 liter packaging machine. It means pure nutrient. The slogan is pure nutrients, golden harvest. From that, it's Agri Gold. It's a full, complete organic fertilizer. And from our perspective, as I said already, a premium product. Of course, this will take time because it's a new brand, etc. To implement it. Nevertheless, also in the coming period, a website dedicated to this project will come online, where we also will start to sell this product and to look to sign contracts with retailers. But generally, and I saw we have already some questions in this regard. I think it is good to mention is the idea, of course, is normally there will be 2 main periods in the year where we will sell large quantities of compost. That's either in the first quarter, let's say, for the spring campaigns, and of course in autumn for the next year. So in the Q1 we sold for around 4,000 tons of organic fertilizer. We got a lot of requests in this regard due to the crisis in the Middle East. Nevertheless, as well, that we needed more or less to sell because our stocks were full last year. As you maybe all know, our goal was to sell 3,500 or 3,000 tons of organic fertilizer. We postponed this due to the delay we had by certifying it as an organic fertilizer. But now with the purchase of seeds, etc., and corn storage that we needed to have, we needed to empty our stock. And luckily, we had quite a lot of interest due to the fact, as I mentioned already, with the chemical fertilizer. On average, we sold around for 150, 155 euros. Then probably you would ask, okay, but you always had the market prices between 180 and 220 euros. Yes, that is still our estimate. And even for small packaging, we estimated that it will have a higher value. But nevertheless, that is the value when it is eco certified, let's say. And also, That is, I think this is a value hard to obtain on the local market. This is more a value on the European market in this regards, but that remains still our goal. That is the reason we postponed for so many months the sale of organic fertilizer. But everything is on track with that. And to give you an idea, we didn't budget also last year for 180 euros, but we budgeted for 150. In Q2, we also sold already a few hundred tons of fertilizer. As I said, we sold all the fertilizer that we had in Q1, so we don't have that much. Still, we have a few hundred tons left, and we try to figure out different ways of selling it. One is through the commodity market. We will do a test if we could have a reoccurring sales there, meaning no much marketing costs and these kind of things, not much of our own effort. So we're trying to build up this market, and I think we will start with this in 1 or 2 weeks, but that are small quantities. And the contract that we are currently negotiating is around 1,500 tons per client, let's say. That's more or less what we are what we are negotiating, and that is all for the autumn, meaning that probably we will sell in either Q3 or in Q4, let's say. In this case, the next large quantities that are expected. And to give you a bit of an idea for the rest of the year, I think that we would probably still be able to sell probably somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 tons from both, need to contribute it by both equipment, as well as that we want to use a part on our own fields, as I mentioned already, because of the significant decrease in chemical fertilizer prices. In the first quarter, we were not affected by the fertilizer prices due to the fact that we contracted them last year in October. But of course, for the autumn campaign, this will have an effect. So as what we did when Russia invaded Ukraine, at that time we also looked mainly our own manure. This is the main strategy for this year as well, that we will try to use as much of our own manure or our own compost to be less affected by those high prices. So if we look to the main market, I mentioned already our goal, and in what we, as an organization, we finalized IFRS, etc. So the main goal, of course, is to select a broker, update our governance structure for a bit, and then to decide, are we going to do a main capital increase or not? Anyway, in the coming years, the goal is to do a main capital increase. The decision is only will that main capital increase be next year or 1 year later. So that is the idea behind it. If we look to the milk market outlook, today we received the update also for July. So what we could say here, of course, we had a decrease of 30%, more or less 30% in Q1. If we look to the whole in Q2, we will receive more or less on average the same milk price as we had in Q1 from this year, so there is not much milk price growth. It's good to mention that at least the average is in both quarters above the 40 cents. We dropped, especially in March and April. March and April were really the hardest months this year, and I look to Adina because she really worked hard. Also, the milk that we sold on the spot market to sell that as close as possible to our contracted price, and mainly she succeeded. I think only the last 2 weeks in March and maybe the beginning of April that we had a few trucks a bit lower, but for the rest, more or less, we were able to sell close to the contracted price. So I think that that shows the strength of the business model as well as the quality of the milk that we deliver, even in hard times. Because as maybe you all know, spot milk prices were around 12, 15 euro cents, etc. And we had never this kind of issue that we needed to sell for such low prices. On the long term, what we're currently seeing, as I said, we saw an increase since April, 6%. Then we had a really small increase in May, and now it is stabilizing. Still, the outlook on the coming month is positive. Okay, not compared to last year and the year before, but nevertheless, from all the analysts that are writing currently, there is a clear expectation that the milk market will dry up. Also, if we look to the Romanian market, this is the month generally that most milk is produced, and April as well. So that market will dry up a bit as well. So we are positive that we will further have an increase there. And currently, our milk price is close to the current milk price that we receive in this month and next month is close to what we have budgeted as an average price for the market. Yeah, so then we reached already the end of the call. Let's say, okay, of course, we will go to a Q&A session. On 8th of June, we will be at a quarterly report at Tradeville. I will not be alone there as a speaker, but also Michaela will join me there. There is, I think, a round table. So as well, of course, doing the networking, feel free to approach Michaela and ask her all the difficult financial questions that you never maybe dare to ask me or thought that I wouldn't know. So Michaela will help me out and support me there. So we're looking forward to see you there. Of course, in August, we have the publication of the financial report and the teleconference for presenting also end of August. Still, as now to mention, we maybe I forgot, we went on a roadshow 2 weeks ago, I think. We visited five cities in 4 days. It was really exhausting. We had 27 meetings, really positive meetings, a lot of positive feedback. As I said, in preparation to the main market, we will have more of these kind of meetings. This was a European roadshow. The next one is here in Romania to find the optimal structure with the lowest discount, of course, as possible next year in case we do an increase on the market. So then we go quickly to the first question. We have a question: what one-off items in Q1 positively affected profit? Cow sales generated 2 million in Q1 and about 4 million in 2025. How much revenue do you expect from the cow sales this year? How much compost is estimated to be sold? At least on the, and then I will see if Michaela confirms what I'm saying, and otherwise please interfere. But if we look to the compost, I said already, we estimate to sell another 5,000 to 7,000 tons. From both plants together, let's say, and if there is additional production, probably will use that in-house. Then we have the so somewhat, I mean, in general, we sell all the time cows throughout the year. Due to the fact that we are fast growing. Now, let me first start simple. So in an optimal structure, you would replace 1/3 of your herd annually. Our rate is significantly lower. Generally, we succeed around 18%. I mean, why is our elimination rate lower, or replacement rate lower than market standard? That's because we are growing as fast as we can. So we are opening every few years a new farm or increasing capacity on existing farms, meaning we don't have time and not the number of animals to be in the luxury position to optimize the herd all the time. Now, of course, with the sharp decline of the milk price, as well as with still a really high meat price, it was from strategic reason that we said, okay, it's now time to optimize the herd structure. And it's not only to optimize the herd structure to gain extra revenue streams, it's also to ease and to increase the efficiency, the operational efficiency for our team members and herd managers on our farms. This have we done all years. To give you an idea, for the Q2, we estimate more or less the same value in this case. But this is not a one-off. We are selling every year animals. A cow produces in our farms between 5 to 7 years, and then it gets sold. Now it stands maybe more out as a figure, as we had a significant decrease in milk price, and we have a really high meat price. So I think that's more that it stood out. But that we expect also for Q2, and we estimate in Q3 and Q4 that those numbers will be lower, but that still that will have a contribution. In the future, when farms are fully operational, these amounts should increase, let's say, from that perspective. Compost, as I mentioned, we mainly estimate also in the future, if we sell large quantities, that it will be probably in Q1 and in the autumn. So that is more or less the period that you can expect those larger quantities. Of course, payment terms are different there. That's also, we need to get something used to. Generally, our milk contracts are either paid up front or around 7 days. In the fertilizer business, generally, it is 90 days, let's say. So, of course, when we go for these large quantities, etc., we need to find secure, but also, well, yeah, to adapt to market standard, I would say. Yeah, were there any significant one-offs in the Q1 for the rest?
So it was only that part with the compost that was integrated in the turnover, starting selling it, and the part of the cows.
Yeah, but it's not a one-off. It's a reoccurring. The compost is now implemented, so we doubled our capacity, and next year, of course, we want to further double our capacity, so it better generates revenues throughout the year, I would say. Maybe we can go to the next question. How would a 5% appreciation of the euro against RON affect the business? Would the overall effect be positive or negative? Please explain the impact. Maybe Michaela, you could help me here.
Yes. Our, of course, the appreciation of euro is 5% would have impact on our results, on the financial part mainly, because our investment loan are contracted in euro currency. And according to Romanian legislation, at the end of each period, the debts, the foreign debts must be reevaluated at the new foreign currency. But this will not be a cash out position every month. Also, for the short-term debts in euro, consider that all our contracted milk sold, it's in euro basement. So this counterbalance the impact of the appreciation of euro for short-term loans, for short-term debts, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much, Michaela. Then we go to the next, and I think, yes, it's still on the gap part. What is the income from sale of goods of around 4 million lei, up from 0.24 million lei during Q1 2025, and why do you have such a big increase?
That position represents incomes from selling of the merchandise. It's also on adapting to the Romanian regulation, but that part represents our milk, still the produced milk from our company that we sell through our trade point at spot prices. We have to present this separately in the P&L account due to the regulation of legislation.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe to add to that, to further clarify, meaning we have, when we export our milk, we have a certain trading license, let's say, from that perspective. So some milk from some farms is moved to this trading. In this case, I think it's mostly the Appold farm. It goes to the Appold farm, and then to the Appold farm, it's sold outside of the group. So that has just to do that there's the trading license, even in case you want to export milk. And that, of course, is mainly the case that milk from the Straatje farm goes through the part of that goes through the Appold farm and then will be sold outside. Then we have Then we have another question. What is the income from production of intangible assets of 10 million lei, up from 5 million lei during Q1?
The 10.2 million lei at March 2026 represents the value of the new cows, the productive milk cows that entry in production and comes from the young calves. That is the value. Normally you put the young stock of the animals, we keep as a stock in our accountancy, and when they grow every month up to almost 2 years, and when they start to give milk, they turn into fixed assets and start to be depreciated, amortization. So this is the value of the new cows that entry in this period.
Thank you very much, Michaela. And then we have what was the revenue from the compost in Q1? As we have mentioned already, it was around 3 million lei, where we sold 4,000 tons of organic fertilizer. And I think it contributed to the profit. I really do it from my head now. I think it was 1.8 million or 2 million.
2.2 million.
2.2 million lei. Then we have here another question. The difference between IFRS and GAAP coming from government grants, 10 million, is a one-time event, or can we expect similar differences during the following quarters. And basically, for the full year 2026, there should be no difference between IFRS, GAAP coming from government grants. Is this correct?
To explain a little bit what is the impact and difference in recognition of these subsidies according to IFRS. Mainly we have different type of subsidies. The part of subsidies related to the welfare of the animals is the one that IFRS standard is reflecting in the moment of the year when the company has the right to receive this. Considering that DNAgrar makes the request to APIA for this kind of subsidies in the first quarter of each year, based on the average number of animals from previous year, on IFRS, this value of the subsidy of the welfare is recognized, for example, in Q1 2026, while in the Romanian legislation is recognized in 2025. From here comes this difference in recognition. And lately, in the last year, starting from 2024, 2025, and estimated for 2026, the level of these subsidies registered a growth in the period. That's why we have this impact now, but it will be equilibrated in the next period, while also in the Romanian legislation, the company registered linearly also part of the subsidies. I don't know if I'm really clear for this. But,
yeah, no, I think you're really clear. Maybe what we could add there is, so now we have a big difference in Q1, and generally that we also will have in the following years. We also restated our figures in 2024 and 2025, and more or less how the cycle runs is that in Q1 there is a big difference. In Q2, so the first half year, they will be relatively close aligned, or at least come significantly closer to each other. Then, at least in last year, and that is also something that we expect at least this year, that in Q3 there will be again a difference. And by the end of the year, we have presented the budget a bit earlier. There will be a difference, but a small difference. So Q1 every year, big difference. Half year, close to each other. Q3 again, a difference, not as big as in Q1, and then in Q4, it will align more or less.
Only to add a little bit, on IFRS, all the time it's comparing the level of subsidies at one moment to what you already have booked in the Romanian legislation. So if, let's say, an example, at March 2026, on the Romanian legislation, you already booked, let's say, 3 million, but according to IFRS, in that quarter, you should have had 11 million euro, 11 million RON. That difference will come as a main impact between the two reporting.
Yeah, and on the Romanian legislation, we register the subsidies in the year itself, and with the IFRS, they come the year afterward.
Right.
So when we are now implementing it, we talk about the subsidies, what you see in the figures about 2025, and in the local legislation, they are registered throughout the year equally, quarter to quarter. But this is something, of course, due to the implementation now of IFRS that we all need to get used to. But I think when we will have 1 year off, you more or less will start to understand the cycle. How do you see the milk price during the next months? I mentioned this already a bit, I would say. So we see more or less currently a stabilization in the price. So for the first, between the milk price, there will be a really slight difference, but more or less the milk price in Q1 and Q2 will remain the same. The average milk price, contracted price, of course, where we could benefit is now that we see that the spot market prices are also going up. So of course that would be helpful, because more and more it becomes more and more significant. Also the part that that is not contracted yet. So that could be additional benefit. Next to that, it's good to mention, if we look to the outlook for Q2, more or less we expect more or less the same growth as what we had in Q1. Of course, in Q2 we will not have this significant compost. As I said, we just sold everything. We only will will sell several hundreds of tons. But we will receive around approximately 1.5 million euros of additional subsidies based on last year. The Romanian government moved a part of the budget from the agricultural part to the milk part, to support the milk industry in Romania. So this year we will benefit from that. So meaning we will receive here now in Q2 approximately 1.5 million euros in addition, which will be both registered in GAAP and in IFRS. So there will not be a different treatment in this case as an additional income. As well as we mentioned, that we expect again around 2 million lei from animals that we will sold outside of the group. So more or less, we expect in the same dimension the growth as we had in Q1. Then for Q3, the estimation is that the milk price will go up from August, September, let's say, and then we expect that it will further increase, mainly due to the crisis in the Middle East. We saw also this that a significant milk price increase with the war in Ukraine. That of course takes a few months, but we see globally that significantly a reduction of purchase of chemical fertilizers. So normally this would evolve in significantly lower crop production, meaning increase in feedstock and food in general. So the estimation is also from the analysts that this will further grow in the coming years, which would mean, of course, which gives us a lot of confidence that we will reach the budget with the outlook that we have up today this year. As I said, we are currently close. We are not far away from the budgeted price, just a bit under. Then we haven't given the depreciation of the lei against against the euro in Q2. Unfavorable exchange rate difference will arise, which will impact the net profit. Could you please tell us if the selling price of milk is linked to a euro-based formula? Yeah, as I said, our generally strategy is that the contracts are priced in euros, so that's almost for all contracts, but far majority of the contracts that we have, and especially for the milk contracts, they are all in euros. All linked to the euro formula. And again, all our loans are in euro as well, etc. On the compost production, how much revenue do you expect to generate in 2026? Did you manage to obtain a certification? What is the margin on this segment? And how do you account for cost of producing compost? What is your current exposure on financial and commercial liabilities in euro? Michele, maybe you can answer the last part of the question, but first I will do the first part. Is on the compost production I mentioned already. So probably we will try to sell somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000 additional tons. The price, as I said, currently mainly we are selling for 150, 155, etc. The goal is, as soon as we receive the EcoCert certification, to sell for around 480 euros or even more, as well as that we invested in this packaging machine where values will be higher, but that will take more. Yeah, we expect that it's will take some time to build up this network. I prefer not to fully disclose the production cost of the compost. I mean, we also need to negotiate with future clients, but there is a clear margin, let's say. So the margin is there is a significant margin with. Now you could also more or less. We mentioned a bit what was the contribution to the profit. So more or less you could do in this case. About over the 150 euros that we mentioned, we said it had a revenue of 3 million euros and it had a contribution to the profit of 3 million lei, 2.2 million. But of course, in our goal is to further increase this in the future. That mainly depends on the EcoCert, as well as if we will be able to sell in small packaging, because the main margins or the largest margins they lay in this industry. Michaela, could you? What's your current exposure on financial and commercial liabilities in euros? Or
regarding exposure on financial, if it's about the loans that we have contracted to the banks, Exim Bank and ING Bank, together with the leasing contract, that represents approximately 78% from our total debts, while commercial liabilities represents 12% from all our total debts. If we speak about euro for the loans, we have approx in this moment 35 million euro loans and leasing contracts.
Okay. Sorry, smacking. And if the NRR decides to raise the planet at 20 million lei, now in that case it would be closer. If you, I mean, what the advisors are. Sorry, first the question: if the NRR decides to raise the planet 20 million lei in capital, will existing shareholders have preemptive rights to subscribe pro rata before any shares are offered to new investors? From the meetings that we are having with brokers and consultants on the local market is if you want to do a significant capital increase and if you want to attract capital from pension funds or institutional investors, more or less the minimum rate should be 20 million euros, not 20 million lei. So that's what the reason that I was mentioning, that in case we would raise such an amount, that clearly means that the market capitalization needs to increase. That's one of the reasons that we want to go to the main market, the Bucharest Stock Exchange, as their valuations are significantly higher than on the market where we're current on. So we are looking for different ways to increase the market cap. Of course, to fulfill our budget or even overpass our budget for the coming year, as well as that we're looking to if we could add through an M&A, a strategic M&A, if we could include that into the DNAG group. That's not necessarily that we're looking for on the Romanian market, but due to the crisis that's going on in the agricultural sector, a lot of companies are for sale. So that's something that we monitor critically to include. Of course, we will give also other shareholders the option to subscribe to that. What exactly the structure will be, that we will announce in time when the moment is there, and to know if we will be able to attract institutional investors and pension funds, etc. But that's where we are working on for this year. These are the questions. We had some more questions. Let me see on the slides. I think here. Oh, there. Here. So how much compost was sold without organic certification? So everything was sold without organic certification. So I think it shows also the strength of the product and the quality of the product, that we are still, even without this certificate, that we are almost sell for the price that is sold with certificate. The impact of the opening of China's agri-food market. Maybe Adina, you have an opinion on it?
Oh yeah, the opening of Chinese agri-food market is a positive development for Romanian agricultural sector of long term. However, at this stage, we do not expect a significant short-term impact for DNA Agrar. Usually, these types of exports opportunities require additional approvals, certifications, products testing, and commercial alignments before exports can be starting. So for now, we don't see an important change in DNA Agrar with this opening Chinese food, at least not in the next year.
Thank you very much, Adina. Could you tell us how you feel the fluctuations in milk prices in the second part of the year? I think we have more or less answered that. When you will receive organic certification for the compost, I look for Marianne. He's behind the screen here, managing that. Everything is settled. They have all the information. All questions are answered. So we really expect it in the coming period, let's say. But be aware, as soon as we receive it, we will inform you immediately. Why don't sell the whey protein products? Of course, that could be something in the future of interest to further close the circle. But the first step is cream and skimmed milk. First of all, from an operational point of view, it's way easier to produce this. You can do that more or less fully automated. It's not a difficult process to create these type of products. And through that, this we can use the whole year, especially if we look to whey powder, etc. Those factories generally don't run the whole year, which means they will quite attack your cash flow, or they will quite influence your cash flow. Now, as you are all aware, we are significantly investing in this year and next year, which of course all financing is also with 20% on resources, which puts pressure on the cash flow, as well as it is a way harder procedure. But of course, in the future, especially with the development of the other business lines, it could make sense that you would powder milk in the future, especially when there is a decrease in milk price. Then we have a liquidity and financing structure regarding the euro, etc. Yeah, maybe in regards to hedging, so the loans from Exim Bank and ING are presented in parallel, RON euro. Could you specify what proportion of total financial debt is in euro? I mean, now the total financing debt is in euro to Exim and ING, as I mentioned before, and whether there is any currency risk hedging is in place, given that the revenues are predominantly in RON. Michaela, could you add something there?
Yes, to specify that, sorry, it's open. To specify that the company in this moment doesn't use formal hedging instruments like forward contract or swap contracts. All the loans from Exim and IG, yes, they are in euro currency due to the fact that interest rate negotiated was at a very good level compared to the offer that we receive on Romanian financing. Also, as we already mentioned, our selling contract are negotiated already in foreign currency. Also, the revenue we receive in RON, but the invoices are issued at the exchange rate, the average exchange rate from the previous month. So this is more like a natural hedging, let's say, in order to reduce the risk of the short-term debts that we have in the company. And for the rest of the exposure for the long term in euro, the company is monitoring closely the effect and the increase or decrease in the exchange rate.
Yeah, and especially the reason that we transferred a couple of years ago to euro, that was when the crisis in Ukraine started. At that time, all our loans were in lei. At that time, we only had a significant increase in interest rate. I think it was 9% or something, or this or 10. Yeah. We significantly reduced at that time to 6 or 5%, and up to today. It's a bit over 4%, right?
Yes.
The interest rate, including Euribor. So 1.5% plus Euribor means a bit over 4%. Maybe you could also answer the next question, Michaela. The 2026 budget notes that the margin recovery depends on stabilization of the milk price. What average milk price assumption is included in the budget for H2, and how sensitive is the net profit to a 10% variation of the price? I think what's good to mention is, I mentioned already before, is that we are not that far off currently of the average milk price that we have budgeted, which is a good sign, as I said, that we expect in the rest of the year that it will increase. So there we don't see much of an issue. Maybe you could answer the part with the 10% variation, Michaela.
Yes, for a prediction of the variation of milk price with 10%, of course, the net profit is sensitive to the fluctuation of milk price, but the impact on the net profit for sure comes also from evolution of other operating expenses for the feed, veterinary cost, or other kind of services. But if we consider this variable, let's say constant in this moment, 10% increase in the milk selling price will have an impact for about 20-25% in the EBITDA, and 30-35% we consider in the net profit.
Okay, thank you very much. Regarding the skimmed milk plant, we more or less mentioned already, everything is on track. You saw a picture today. It's a bit of an old picture, but we didn't have time to send our guy with a drone to make a new picture. But the roof is on it, etc. They are starting to install the equipment in the coming weeks. So generally things are on schedule. The aim in the summer is to start testing with earlier sales are expected in September. Let's say that is the goal. We will see if we reach that, but that also really depends on the testing. Let's say if that is successful from day one. Anyway, it's good to mention that for this year, we didn't budget any additional revenue for the skimmed milk cream factory. That's what we do with all our new investments in our budget for this year. We didn't include additional revenue stream for the wheat grass facility, as well not for the cream and skimmed milk factory. It's simple. It is really hard to estimate how fast the testing phase is started. I mean, if we only start to sell in September, it's only for a few more months. Will we be able to directly include the full production of Strasia, or does that need to be gradually? Then still it is a commodity, etc. So that will be tested this year. It will be also start to have sales this year, and it will start to generate revenues. And next year it will be included in the budget. Then the compost segment, I think we have answered that part. Then the scenarios. Yeah, so the scenarios, we have not included them in the report on purpose, that we are redesigning a bit the scenarios. Now we had 4 scenarios based on historical milk prices. But now that we are significantly diversifying our revenue streams, etc., we will come up with a new type of matrix goals in the coming weeks, where we will include in to 2030, and also to more or less show which revenue stream will have which effect in EBITDA, in profitability, in revenue, etc. And of course, it's clearly the biomethane and the compost, etc. They aren't significant contributors to the revenue streams in the future, but they are significant contributors to EBITDA and profit. And I mentioned already at the beginning is that the treatment of manure, that includes biomethane, compost, and the organic of the voluntary carbon certificate, that more or less we aim 2030, when all those projects are implemented, it will contribute around 30% to the EBITDA, 30 to 30% of the EBITDA, based on the current strategy, let's say, that we have announced. And then and to the scenarios in the future, I mean, it's good to mention the scenarios are, I mean, we have a budget for a year, and we cannot give, another question is if we can give exact numbers or figures for the scenarios of 2030 or 27. No, yeah, 2000. So I mean, that of course, I think it's a bit much to ask. What we will do is we will give a range, because and that we adapt every year. The scenarios we created once to show you that regardless, if you look to the average more or less milk price of the previous 4 years, that we will be able to double our EBITDA and deliver on what we're trying to promise. I'm not trying, but what we promised so far, that we are confident on that behalf. So it's more a show of a trend in which direction it will go than that we can give you an exact figure. So what the new scenario will look like 2030 is that we will give probably several ranges within, and there we will give figures, but we will give several ranges. As you could see, is that we are in a high volatile world, and especially now when we are in a world where every day is different. Let's say it is, we need to find to have some safety mechanisms over there. But it's clear, we want to be clearer on the scenario. So we want to give a clear direction, which revenue stream contributes to what, when it's expected, and that we will then update every year. With a budget is that we more or less know quite for sure, let's say, that's only for a year, and the rest of that scenario anyway need every year to be updated. Then there was a regarding the Q1 report that consists of 60 pages, and if we could upload it in a easier format. Yeah, anyway, it is our goal to shorten the quarter report, so we are working on that, because also from our perspective, 60 pages that are too many, let's say, for a quarter report. So we will try to reduce a part of the information in it, want to present it in a more comprehensive way quarterly. And also we will try this. I need to analyze with our IT guy, but in principle, I have nothing against it to also publish in a different type of document. Anyway, I would like to mention that on our website, the balance sheet The P&L, etc., are available in Excel. So they are published on our website if it is only to do about the figures. Let me see. Are there any other questions? Oh, yes, there are. This is the, yeah. So we have, so basically you will still record a financial loss from currency depreciation, especially in Q2, but it will be compensated by higher revenues due to RON depreciation, right?
To mention that the financial result, it's not impacted only by the depreciation or appreciation of the currency. There we have also interest expenses related to our loans. But yes, as we see in at least in the April and May, the euro already went up. So this, yes, will have a negative impact in the financial loss. And as we already mentioned, the higher revenues will be aligned also according to the contracts that we have negotiated in euro. Of course, if the euro will go down, this also will have an impact on the financial result.
Thank you, Michaela. And then we have a last question. Could you please explain more what is the food cluster? How are you partnering? So as I said, the goal for this year is mainly to finalize the business plan, to find the initial partners, to find the location. The location consists mainly of, we don't need good land, we need consolidated land plots of a few hundred hectares around Bucharest, where there is a right energy infrastructure, as well as preferably a road and railway. So that's more or less as a type of location that we are looking at. Then, of course, now we are finalizing what is this optimum product mix. So think of paprika, cucumber, tomatoes, now, etc., plus 2 or 3 others. And in the meantime, for certain crops, we're looking, or certain vegetables, we're looking for certain partners who have experts in this industry. So that means mainly, quite or simply said, to both co-invest. Now, that could be that we invest in that as a majority equity partner, or if we are just a majority holder of that certain company, but we could also just be an equity partner, and of course streamline it that the production will go through the cluster. The main, I mean, generally retailers, they prefer to purchase directly from an individual farmer. So how do we try to add value is that we can offer a product mix that will serve as a start 30 to 40% of their sales on those specific, on their most consumed vegetables. In time, we could further increase that, I think, to 50 or 60% for all year round, meaning that a big part of the year you will grow that in those greenhouses. So probably we will produce 4 or 5 vegetables. But okay, this will take several years to build. As I mentioned, to reach an optimum per crop in time, you need to reach at least 7 hectares, let's say, of one crop. Now, to give you a bit of an idea, capex investment in a greenhouse is around, for a modern greenhouse, it varies per crop, but let's say between 2 to 3.5 million euros, where we are aiming for 50 to 70% bank financing, and of course, the rest will be equity, and that will then be splitted. Probably some we could implement ourselves, and some we will partner up with. So where for certain vegetables where you need a significant expertise, etc., to deliver the constant quality product, at least in the first few years, we will try to partner up with leaders in these kind of industries, or at least with companies who have a lot of experience in this. In Western Europe, but the main idea is to have this all this production on one location, and also where there are shared services, so that you can share maintenance, you can share logistics, you can share some R&D, cooling, the refrigerators, etc., to share these kind of services. So more or less to create an integrated business model as we have today, and that we are a one-stop shop for those retailers. So that's the main idea behind it. But it will all, I understand it sounds maybe a bit superficial so far, but it will be all come clear later in the year when we will present the plan. But it also really depends on which type of partners we are able to attract, let's say, and that we are working hard on now. Now, then I think we have answered all the questions. So thank you very much. We hope to see you in August. As I said, we estimate more or less the same quarter as we had in Q1, with a bit of different streams from this perspective. I said already, we have an additional subsidy based for last year around 1.5 million euros, more or less the same exit of animals or sales of animals, more or less the same milk price. So all in all, more or less, we estimate a few hundred tons of fertilizer, but that are not significant amounts in Q2. So that's more or less the estimation. And then the main milk price increase should come in Q3, and probably the main increase will be in Q4. So thank you very much for your time. Wish you a lovely evening and see you soon.